You can take people into that world, and my goal is to show them the real thing. And that's what is important to me. It's the real stuff. Because these people's lives are so much more interesting than something you can make up. So I want to take them there because it's such a wonderful culture. It excites me to no end to tell those stories. My name is Curt Mattson, and I work in bronze, and I work in oils. I do dry points as well. I want to tell the stories of the West to as broad an audience as I can, and there's so many stories to tell. I'll tell you the whole story. I was born on a ranch in Northern California. I'll go back a little bit further. 1979, we were showing horses. We were back at a show, the World Championships in Oklahoma City. I walked into the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and I saw End of the Trail, and it's 18 feet tall, and it's by James Earl Frazier, and it's an Indian horseback, and he's all sluffed over with a spear. It's a big old plaster. And I saw that, and then I saw a drawing by Edward Boreen, and I thought, man, if I could try that. And so 4 years later, I was working a ranch. I was managing a ranch in Northern California, and it came to the point where it was either try this, it just kept eating at me. And it was either try this or stay in the horse business. And you know, you can tell the stories of the West in so many different ways, and it was really appealing. And I felt like the Lord just opened doors for me to be able to do that, to learn from really great artists. That's what happened with me. One door after another. Like I say, the hand of the Lord was just on that to be able to get where you could really go with excellence and tell the stories with excellence. You know, with sculpture, what I did was for 4 years, when I came off that ranch, a guy that I had known by reputation in the horse business had become one of the best known sculptors in the country. He was about 2 hours away from my house. I went to the art show, I followed him around for an hour, and I only thought, who is this bozo following me around? But I finally got up enough guts to ask him if he could look at a little clay I'd been messing with. And it took me a month. He said, oh yeah, bring it on down. It took me a month to call him because I was so terrified. And then when I took it down there, he looked at it and he said, well, let's start over. And we tore it up and started all over again. But he taught me right from the ground up, and there were about 6 of us, painters and sculptors both, and we got together once a month. And for 4 years, that's how I learned. And then you take workshops, so I would try to do 1 workshop a year, and I've done this with painting and with sculpture both. 1 workshop a year at Scottsdale Artist School here locally, and that's when I was living in California, but I still try to do workshops even now. And you want to be growing all the time. And one of the things, like with the dry points, hardly anybody is doing them. And just the Lord opened totally a door to teach me how, from a guy in Kansas, taught me how to do the whole process so I could learn it. And I've been wanting to do that for 40 years. And so now I have the dry points, which is a great tool for like beginning collectors and stuff, because you can buy an original, but it's a piece of cowboy art history there used to be a lot of that around that was so important. So you can tell those stories in each one of those mediums. It's about the stories and being able to tell people, you know, not everybody's had the opportunity to live this life. And I have, it's my whole life. And people love the West, but they don't have that opportunity to be horseback. They don't know what it's like to be out in the middle of nowhere pushing a bunch of cows, or to be on an old bronky colt, you know. And so you can take people into that world. And my goal is to show them the real thing. There's a lot of fictionalized, or especially nowadays, there's a lot of guys in Western art, but they have no idea what cowboying's about. They have no idea what the lifestyle's about. And those two things need to come together so that people can be drawn in to see the real story. And that's what is important to me. It's the real stuff. Because these people's lives are so much more interesting than something you can make up. And if you can take people there, 99% of the people I talk to, I don't even have an idea about that. So I want to take them there because it's such a wonderful culture. It excites me to no end to tell those stories. And they don't get told a lot, so that's what I try to do. This This piece here, now this is called Steer Chaser, and this gal here, her husband and herself, they both work a cow outfit. Now this is up in Central California, and you can see now as you look at the rider, you can see her determination. I put all these steer patterns because she was running this old steer down, and it was just, I mean, this is a good horse. See how this old horse, he's listening back here. He's got that ear on the steer that he's watching, and she's got, this is called a Wade saddle. These are called chink leggings, okay? Santa Barbara spade. This is called a bosalita. And this is a get-down rope. And so everything about this piece tells you, this is a buckaroo piece. So buckaroos are cowboys from California, Oregon, Nevada, Southern Idaho, Western Utah. The flathead tells you that. All of the gear tells you that. And she's got that determined look on her face because she's watching exactly what it's doing. She's on a good horse. And then these old steers, that's what this horse loves to do. So it tells that whole story. And the women, I love doing the cowgirls of the West, whether it's historic or contemporary, because not everybody does that, and they are so important. And so I want to tell both sides of the West, and this is a great way to do that. And I love these patterns because each steer is an individual painting in itself, and it's just like every steer you're ever going to work, they're all individuals. And so you get that whole sense, along with this horse that's just really about his business, you know, and man, he knows what's going on, so she's just smoking right on through it. Now, this piece all comes from, if you think about it, Arizona 1890s. And in 1890s, you know, Arizona wasn't made a state till 1910. It was extremely lawless. And so when you were out, if you're out working cows, no matter what you were, if you were traveling at all, you had to be careful about, you know, there could be something going on behind you because it could be, there was a lot of bad guys floating around. So this old boy here, now you can see his saddle, it's a typical rig, cowboy rig from the 1890s. Now I use what's called a pommel bag for his pistol, and I'll turn it around here. Let me see if I can get it. You can see right there the indication his pistol would have been right in here instead of having a holster. And it was only on the right side because most people are right-handed. So he would have that there. So that's in his scabbard. And so he's pulled his rifle out. His horse is watching him, and you can see how it spirals up. So it draws you into the composition. So it tells a really wonderful story about what it was like to be in Arizona at this time, and to, you know, some of the dangers that they faced, because you don't think about that nowadays. I've been here 22 years, and the relationships you build with your clients and with other artists, your clients become friends. Over that many years, we've seen people go through all kinds of challenges. We've been able to pray with them. We come alongside them and get to know them and their families, and generations have come in. That is something I didn't expect when we started, and no other show can you develop the kind of closeness that you have here with, not only with your collectors because they come back over and over again, but with all these guys you get to be around. So it's a real uplifting kind of an environment. And so there's so many, I could just go on and on. There's so many wonderful things about being here. So I enjoy the relationships more than ever. And you get to joke with people, because, you know, I like to tell stupid stories just to make people laugh. And so it's really fun to have that component of it as well.